All right, get on your feet, baby. It's that time of the week. Cowboys Overtime. Let the good times roll here on StarTelegram.com. I am Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist Mac Engel, and it is cold outside. So Nick Harris, Mr. Cowboys know-it-all for the Star Telegram, and I are both wearing long-sleeve shirts. Nick, I don't even know where to start. First of all, how you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Are you? Good.
Yeah,
that's good energy. Like scale of 1 to 10. We're 10 being amazing. Where are
10.
we?
10. It's a beautiful
solid
day.
10. Okay, I'm at about a 9.5 right now. It's a little chilly. And yesterday I was driving and I drove over a nail. Yeah, so that brings me down. So I'm rebounding. That was driving over a nail and then realizing, oh my God, this is not good. And then panicking, trying to find some place where I can put air into the tire. And I put the money in the machine and I can hear the air's not coming out and my tire is not in a good spot. Meanwhile, about 8 feet from my machine is a homeless guy just staring at me. Right. So then I run into the gas station and I said, guys, I think the air machine, I'm not sure it's working right. He says, yeah, it doesn't really work.
Goodness.
Right. That was it. It wasn't like, here, can I give you a refund? It was like, yeah, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, nothing that says on it like, hey, don't use this.
No, nothing. Just give us your money and give it a try. So then I drive down the street and now Nick, I can see. I'm like, oh my God, if I'm not careful, I'm gonna be on the rim. Now I'm gonna panic even more so. Find the right machine. This is rush hour. This is just nothing's good. I get air in the tire. I'm like, okay, now I need to find a tire store that can repair this thing. I get to it. Some little mom and pop place is like, boy, gee whiz, I'd love to help you out, but my tech's home sick.
Oh.
One guy, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, can't. So then I eventually found a place, and they were like, well, if it wasn't an emergency, we wouldn't have done it. But luckily I got that fixed. It was a great way to end the day, though.
I have an analogy for you. Ready?
Go.
So the air machine is Matt Eberflus. The tire is the Cowboys defense. The homeless man is all of us watching. You go down the street to the mom and pop shop, the services tech, that's Overshown. Like being sick, Overshown. Then you go down the street and you finally get it fixed. That's what's going to happen in the off season. So,
and the store owner, the gas station owner, when I walked in and I said, yeah, your air machine's broken. I said, I don't think it seems to be working.
That's Jerry Jones.
That's Jerry Jones, which is I give him the money and then he does nothing to help fix it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
No refund, nothing. It really works. That could be your column.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the experience, though?
I don't know if you're at this place where I was sharing an anecdote with a former writer about a book signing I had done once. This was years ago when nobody showed up. Mm-hmm. Like zero. Nobody. And I knew about halfway through. I mean, that's a humiliating, humbling experience. And I knew it was going to be in short time a really funny experience. So for me, the value was this story was much, much better.
Yeah.
It has far more legs on it. The fact that nobody showed up as opposed to 5 or 8 or 10 or something like whatever I would have gotten normally. So in this case, it was miserable, but now because of the analogy that you just extracted out of it, yeah, it's a good story. I'm glad I did it. So we got good content out of it.
There we go. That's all that matters.
Speaking of good content, plenty of good content to come out of the absolute nightmare, but somehow predictable showing by the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday in Denver, 44-24 loss. I think you and I both knew going in they probably weren't going to win this game. It wasn't that they lost. It was the way they lost. To me, it doesn't look that much different, maybe a little bit, than the loss in Chicago. They had won the week before playing their best game of the season against Washington, and then they followed it up with, I think, their worst game of the season in Denver. Was that their worst game?
I would probably say that the Chicago one was just a tad worse. Just because
why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Just because that was a more beatable team, and then the offense was so much worse in that game too. Only 17 points that they scored in that game versus, I guess, 17 for the starting offense in this game. But overall, I just felt like you should have won that game in Chicago, whereas the one in Denver, like Yeah, that's a really good team that you lost to. They're still really bad though. Both of these losses were really bad. We talked about it last week how, a win in Denver would have been a really big turning point for this team. You could have really started to, sip the juice a little bit, buy into the optimism with a win against Denver and their home stadium where they've won 8 or 9 straight now. But they came nowhere close to achieving that. And other than those first couple of possessions where they get the interception and then drive down and only settle for 3 points. Once they settled for 3 points there, that's when Denver just took over from there as far as momentum goes. And the Broncos controlled that game on both sides of the ball. But yeah, it was ugly. And it's got us, looking at this season, I think, with a firm picture now, because through 7 weeks we were like, who is this Cowboys team? Blah, blah, blah. They're this and then they're that. Well, that is who they are. You don't know what version you're going to get every week. And unfortunately, when you have those kind of topsy-turvy type teams where you don't know what version of them you're going to get every week, they don't make the playoffs. And if they do, they get bounced out pretty early on. And so until you see consistency, then you can't buy into this team being a contender. And, we're through 8 weeks now. This is who the Cowboys are. They are a roller coaster, and you're going to have fun games along the way, but you're also going to lose some ones that you shouldn't along the way.
After the game Sunday and then Monday, Brian Schottenheimer took himself and his staff and everybody to task, said we didn't coach well, we didn't do this well. There was a part in the game, though, and I think it was a 2-score game, and the Cowboys weren't going to win. It was in the second half, but they had the ball on offense, and they were in kind of that middle area where it was like fourth and it was a risk. It wasn't like 4th and 2, 4th and 3. Everybody's going for 4th down now, everybody, for good reason. But he punted. He elected to punt. It wasn't, and it was to me, it was one of those feelings like your defense has shown no ability to stop them. Your only chance to get back into this game is your offense, and now you're punting. Yeah. And to me, I was so shocked that he did that. And do you know the part of the game where I'm talking about, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think, given the fact, and I understand you've got to have faith that plays are going to be made, that if we're going to get back into this thing, they're going to do it. I get that. I get it now more than ever. But when you're looking at that defense in that game, why do you think he elected to punt it away, which basically to me punted the game?
Yeah, I think it's more so about creating a longer field for your defense in the event that you do not get the 4th down. But
did you agree with that?
In my eyes, I'm right there with you, Mac. Unless this defense is, I can't even say like inside the opposing 5-yard line, because even then they're going to give up a touchdown. It doesn't matter where this defense is. You bank on your offense before you bank on you bank on your offense anywhere on the field before you bank on the defense anywhere on the field. And I'm a firm believer in that with this Cowboys team, and I'm with you there, Matt.
One thing that we didn't get to see that we thought we might, we talked about it last week. You mentioned it after the game, and there was an opportunity. Brian Schottenheimer has talked a lot about being an NFL fan, an NFL historian, given his family ties. It makes perfect sense. And I thought we might see NFL history on Sunday with a Brandon Aubrey long field goal attempt. There was a point in the game there where they looked like they might do it. Mm-hmm. Why don't you think they did it?
Yeah, I think it was the same thought process. It was not at a point in the game where they felt like, they wanted to give Denver that field position if he were to miss. And it was middle of the second quarter, I believe. They were already fighting some momentum that was working against them. I wanted to see it selfishly, but I think it would have been from 69 yards from that point. It would have been the NFL record, but they decided to pull back.
Did you get a chance to see him warm up?
I did. And Brandon Aubrey is not a, hey, let's go see how far I can kick it in warmups. Okay. He's more of a, hey, I have a process and I'm going to do the same exact thing every week. Because if I do the same exact thing every week, I'm going to understand what the outside factors are a lot better. And so his longest field goal in pregame warmups was 58.
Where do you think he could have made it from in that altitude? Because I think there was a little bit of a breeze on Sunday, was there not?
Yeah, there was. And kicking into that direction, he could have made that 69-yarder, I believe.
Oh, I think I would love to have seen it. You mentioned before we talked about Brandon Aubrey, which is, obviously this team is built around Dak Prescott. And, they've had some games there where this offense looks amazing. Sunday was not it. That was not a great game by the Cowboys, but they have built, but by the offense, they've built this thing around Dak Prescott. Can he save it?
Can he save the offense or the entire ship?
Can he put up the thing about Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott to the rescue. Thank you. Can he save the ship? Forget the offense. He's got to save the offense. Can he save the ship?
No. He's going to need a defense. He's going to need a defensive side of the ball to help him out. Complementary football exists for a reason, and it doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. If you don't have a defensive side of the ball that's helping that quarterback, it's not going to work for you. And so it's we've seen a really good Dak Prescott for the large majority of these 8 weeks. I think there's only 2 games you can point to and be like, that wasn't really his best performance. In Denver and Chicago, we just talked about both of those. And you need him to play perfect every week just to have a shot. And he can't be the lone savior. The offensive side of the ball can't be the lone savior. They're going to need something from that defense.
Okay, so we've talked about it before. The Cowboys have talked about it before. And as the season goes on, teams make changes, obviously, to scheme. We saw them 2 weeks ago, heavy in man coverage. Thanks, Kenny. What changes can they make? What realistic changes can they make that we can see some difference? I'm going to communicate some changes here that they could make, and they're going to sound very minimal because they are, because that's where you are at this point. You have a couple of guys on IR that you could bring off of IR to see what they can bring you on the defensive line. Perrion Winfrey is one of the defensive tackle position. They've been swapping Mozzie Smith and Jay Toya out on the inactive list and active list every single week. They have been flipping out those 2 guys. So, integrate Perrion Winfrey into that mix and see what he can bring you. Peyton Turner was a really good run defender for the New Orleans Saints last year. He's been on IR to start the season. Bring him off IR and see what he can bring you in run defense. You're not getting much of anything from your edges outside of Donovan Ezaraku, especially in the run game. And so, a guy like Peyton Turner could probably help quite a bit in that area. And then as far as, injuries and guys coming back here pretty soon, I mean, DeMarvion Overshown getting back into the mix will certainly help. Savone Revel, while I think it would be so awful if they ran him out there with a starting group the first week that he's ready, I would like to see him by the end of the season get some. Wait, time out. So this is a 3rd round pick, a guy who's coming off an ACL, probably would have been a higher pick had he not had the injury. I think that's safe to say. Given the state of the Cowboys secondary where everybody is hurt, Trayvon Diggs, we have no idea what his status is moving forward. I'll follow up here in a second.
Yeah.
What's your reluctance to throw this guy out there, given the fact that the guys out there, especially on Sunday, have shown you not a lot?
Yeah, it's just that he hasn't played football in over a year, and that's throwing him out there into the wolves without being on the football field for over a year. It's only going to shoot the rookie's confidence, and I would rather build it back up with rotational snaps and let him get comfortable with that, get his feet back under him, and then if there's an opportunity in week 16, 17, 18 to throw him a start, then throw him that start and give him that opportunity, and then really develop him in the offseason.
When Overshown does come back, because now this always happens. One of these guys who's coming back, you put all this hope on him, and this happens in every sport. But God, I mean, this back in and be some kind of a savior. I'm like, give me a break. What can we realistically expect? Because when he got hurt, he was playing very, very well. What do you think we should realistically expect from him this season?
Yeah, I think you should realistically expect that, you're still going to get the athleticism that DeMarvion Overshown has shown the last couple of years. We've seen him on the practice field over the course of the last week, and, man, he's outrunning almost all of these linebackers, which isn't saying much because it's the most unathletic linebacker group in the NFL. But isn't that an indictment? A guy who just shreds his knee twice, comes back first day of practice, and he's outrunning all of your linebackers. It doesn't matter who it doesn't matter if it's Usain Bolt.
Here's the killer about this. Is that since I covered the team, the Cowboys, go back and look, I'm just baffled by how much capital the Cowboys had invested over the years in linebackers, right?
Yeah.
And they just continually, they drafted Micah Parsons as a linebacker. They moved him to end. They've obviously traded him. But it's amazing to me at that position the production. Like Sean Lee was a great player, but he couldn't stay on the field consistently. Leighton Vander Esch, I think, was going to be a very, very good player, but he had an unfortunate neck injury. Bruce Carter out of North Carolina was a really good player, and he had windows in there where he was really, really good, but he couldn't stay healthy. There are other guys in there too, but to me, it's just incredible that this position continues. This is not like the safety position where they've gone out and spent a first or a second round pick on safeties. They have not done it. And you've talked about it here in Cowboys Overtime. You spend a first round pick on a safety, you better hit, right? You just normally don't do that. You would on a corner, you would on a D end. Okay, I get that. But the Cowboys have really invested high quality picks on linebackers for a long time. And here we are. And it is, if there is a worse group of linebackers in the NFL than the Cowboys, I want somebody to show me, because it is incredible. And I'm sure you saw it. I went back and I watched the whole game again Monday. I just kind of fast forwarding through it. I was just astounded to me how many times Broncos linebackers would account for an end, whomever was coming, and then they would get to the linebacker, and with ease, time and time again. So with the fact that Overshown coming back is the best one already, yes, it is an indictment, but given the way the first 7 weeks have gone, or 8 weeks, it's not really a surprise, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not at this point. And it's even more, I guess, disappointing when you factor in Matt Eberflus's career and who he's been able to develop and what position that he's worked at throughout his career. It's been that linebacker spot. And I had a little bit of confidence in training camp because he had his guy in Jack Sanborn. You pretty much already counted the win that he would know what he's doing at the linebacker spot, because that's how he made his way up in the league. And it was just the first of many chickens that you counted before they hatched.
Well, the one that baffled me, and I know we've talked about it, and a lot of Cowboys fans and media types, is Kenneth Murray. I'm like, what are we doing? Yeah. And, this would be a deal where I would say, rosters are small for a reason, money, but this isn't like, okay, you've got to put this guy down or get him out of the way because to start this guy is getting in the way of progress and developing a guy behind him. I'm looking around. Is there anybody behind anybody that they're getting in the way of?
No, not really. I mean, the only guy that they have not thrown out there off the practice squad is Justin Barron, who's a rookie out of Syracuse, undrafted. So, I mean, if you feel like you need to see some Justin Barron, then maybe so. But other than that, they've thrown the kitchen sink at it.
Okay, we need to address this because it's still unclear what is going on with Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, it's a strange situation. So he was put on IR last Saturday, which will knock him out for the next 4 games. I asked a team source, I was like, okay, if this concussion thing is as bad as it seems, why was he not put on NFI, which NFI designates it as a non-football injury, quote unquote. And it would put him in a situation where, the pay is a little bit different. It allows the team to get away with some more things. But with him going on IR, it indicates a football injury. And so the football injury is his right knee. Now, his issue that he's had throughout his career has been with his left knee. He's torn his left ACL. The cartilage surgery that he had to have back in January, that was in his left knee. Now he's having issues with his right knee. And so that is the crux of the reason why he's being put on IR, is that right knee. Although the concussion, he is still not even through the first phase of the concussion protocol. So it's weird.
What the hell happened in his house?
It is a strange situation. And he was in the locker room last Wednesday with a ski mask covering his face to about here. And so a team source had told me when he came in on that Friday after the incident that there was a visible mark on his face about how bad this concussion was, and he was showing concussion protocols, or he was showing concussion symptoms. So he went through the protocol, deemed he had the injury, and that's where it is from here.
Was it a knot?
And that's how it was kind of explained to me. It was like a knot on his head, but it's strange, man. It's a strange situation.
I'm telling you, the one thing that and I say this because this happened in a situation. I was playing a pickup basketball game, and pickup basketball game, things happen, right? And when I heard that, a friend of mine who played, he ran into another guy, and he was out for a month. He had a concussion. And that was my first thought, because somebody with the team told me, he said, yeah, he had some kind of knot on his head, and I'm like, I wonder if he ran into something. If he was out there playing pickup basketball on a Friday afternoon. Those guys do it all the time. I'm not saying that I have no clue, but that's what could happen. And now he's on IR for 4 games. Micah Parsons makes a point to go on social media, whatever, and they said the Cowboys are doing my guy wrong. And he's out 4 games. That's going to take him into week 12, I believe. Are you still convinced that he will play again for the Cowboys?
Yeah, you asked me that last week, and my tune has changed on this one. I think he's probably played his last down. Now, we have asked Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Brian Schottenheimer. They have all said no. He'll be back after these 4 games, and we're just trying to get him healthy, get his feet back under him. I don't know, man. I think we're trending toward a situation where if Diggs plays for the Cowboys again, it'll be very late in the season, just to kind of put a show or a tryout for other teams.
Okay, so the Cowboys play on Monday night, and maybe they can do something to break a cycle, because right now this is the cycle: loss, win, loss, tie, win, loss, win, loss. So the Cowboys should tie the Arizona Cardinals on Monday night. The Cardinals are not very good. The Cowboys' next 2 games are extremely winnable, even for the Cowboys. The Cardinals are not good. The Las Vegas Raiders, who they will play after that, are really not good. They haven't strung back-to-back wins, obviously, all season. Do you see them doing that here?
I see them beating Arizona. We'll start with that one. I see them beating Arizona.
Is Kyler Murray going to play?
And that's going to be a big question. He was limited to start the practice week. He's missed his last 2 games. They're coming off of a bye week, so that's going to be a big one. He is 9-0 in his career at AT&T Stadium. That is one to keep in mind. He won 5 games at Allen High School. Mm-hmm. He won 2 at Oklahoma. Technically won 1 at Texas A&M, although he did not start that game. And then he's already won 1 with the Arizona Cardinals. So speaking of breaking the cycle, Cowboys will attempt to do that with his prowess at AT&T Stadium. I think they beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals are just way too beat up on both sides of the ball. Vegas, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's one of those games where it's like, it's a game, they should have beaten the Bears on the road. They should have beaten the Panthers on the road. It feels like another one of those games. They should beat the Raiders on the road. And we'll get there when we get there, I think. But I think with Arizona, I think they go into the bye with a win right at 500. And they should control this game. There's no reason why they shouldn't win this game by 2 scores.
So if let's say they do that, because, your attitude about this is different than mine. You said they should have beaten Carolina on the road. They should have beaten Chicago on the road. To me, they should not have beaten Chicago on the road. Chicago kicked their butt. Carolina, they could have won. They could have won that game, but they still got manhandled. And, there's one part to this. I wrote this down here on my little, handy notebook. There's 2 guys in this that we have not talked about here today, and that is this defense, and I think it will be instrumental in breaking this cycle. This defense, their hope was around the interior of their defensive line. They get Kenny Clark in the Packers trade, and unless you're watching something I'm not, Kenny Clark has not been that great for Dallas so far. No. He's had moments, and the other one is the free agent or potential free agent that they kept in Osa Odigizua, who had such a nice season last year. They keep him in the fold, and he's had moments this season where he's been pretty good. Yeah. But I would say overall, both of these guys through 8 games, have been pretty disappointing. Do you agree?
Yeah, they're not giving you a whole lot. And I think both of them are giving you something in the pass rush, which I'll give them that credit. Kenny Clark is second on this team in pressures, which is just that's an indictment on the edges right there.
Sure. But, unless he's Warren Sapp. I mean that there's not many tackles that you're going to find who play who are going to who should be at the top of your team in pressures or sacks.
But in the run game, But the run game stuff, it's been awful. And
why do you think that is?
Man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. And I think this team has always had a little bit of a problem with lack of physicality over the course of the last decade on the defensive side of the ball. Right. And I think this team is more physical. I will say that. I think this team is more physical than the Mike McCarthy teams of 2023 and 2024, but it's still not enough. They are going to need to really ramp it up in the offseason, find those tough guys.
Okay, so I'm going to hang on and cut you off here. You say they're more physical, right? And I understand that always doesn't necessarily translate to stats, but when you look at the numbers on this team, they're in the bottom of everything. And the thing that's so shocking to me is that they're at the bottom in passing yards allowed and running yards allowed. Yeah. Usually sometimes it's one's a little bit higher than the other if you're near the bottom, because one team, especially if you can run against a team, you're not going to pass against them. You just don't need to do it.
Yeah. The Cowboys, listen, you can do both. You can do whatever you want.
I was going to say the Cowboys have really pulled this off. So when you say you think this team is more physical, I'm like, you're going to have to define that for me, because if if they're running all over town on you, which they are, what makes you say that, and I'm not saying you're wrong, what makes you say they're more physical than those McCarthy teams?
Yeah, I look at guys like Kenny Clark, and on the offensive side, more so talking largely encompassing a Tyler Booker, having those guys. I think the emphasis on having a more physical football team this offseason, I've seen that translated in very marginal places, but it's still a long way to go. And the McCarthy teams were really bad when it came to physicality, and I still think this team is bad. I just don't think it's really bad when it comes to that department.
You know, you mentioned Kyler Murray, and Kyler has obviously owned AT&T Stadium, and the Cowboys, as you mentioned, 9-0 there. This is a fun debate, and because I know how much you love Texas high school football and Texas college football, I can ask you this. Is Kyler Murray the best high school player in the state of Texas history?
Yes, absolutely. And I had a feeling that question was coming. Absolutely. 42-0, over 10,000 passing yards, over 4,000 rushing yards. It was 168 total touchdowns. 3 consecutive state titles. What else you need? And the highest.
Who else would you put in that? I mean, there's so many great players, and you can go back to Sammy Baugh. Yeah. Obviously, you know that predates everybody. But Earl Campbell, Jonathan Gray, the Alito running back. Absolutely. Jonathan Gray's numbers are just astounding what he did there. But is there any, who else do you put in that discussion as all-time best high school players in the history of Texas high school football?
Yeah, my grandmother graduated with Earl Campbell at John Tyler High, so I would have
to
put out there. She did, and so that's one. Jonathan Gray, his rushing records are never going to be touched in this state unless something bonkers happens. There was a player at Timpson High School out in East Texas who won a couple of state titles. Terry Bussey, he's now playing at Texas A&M. That's one that I have to throw into the mix. One of the best high school players I've ever seen, and he had the wins to back it up. And then. I hate to throw a 6-man guy in there, but a 6-man guy has to be in the conversation. And Grayson Rigdon, he won 3 state titles at Benjamin and Strawn, and then in his senior season he transferred to an 11-man school in Columbus. And did they win the state title last year, or did they lose in the state title? They had
Columbus.
I
think they lost.
I think they lost 2, but nevertheless, he's one of the best high school players that I think has ever come through this state. Now he's at Arizona State trying to be the Cam Scattaboo replacement. It's not really working, but it's there's a lot of guys that you can throw into the mix. But any conversation has to have Kyler Murray right there at the top. And if he's not, then you're having the conversation wrong.
So I don't know if you saw this or not. A friend of mine back in August pointed this out to me, that you talk about 6-man football. I'm going to ask you for a comp. So Gordon High School right now will go on and win another state championship in 6-man football. It has 4 players who are going to be Division I athletes next season.
Wow.
2 of whom are going to play FBS football. One's going to Navy, one's going to Navy, one's going to Army. The other 2 are track athletes who are one's going to Air Force. The other 2 are also slated to run track and field at the service academies. So you've got 4 out of 6 Division I NCAA student athletes on a 6-man team.
Rare.
It's incredible, right? I mean, they're blowing everybody out, their mercy score, everybody, they're only averaging about 10 to 11 to 12 yards of offensive plays per game because everybody's just, it's ridiculous. They've already beaten two 11-man teams, and that a 6-man team can play an 11-man team occasionally, but there's a lot of moving parts to it, and you can't. I mean, it's hard because you've got the numbers, but the coach explained to me, you got a lot of freshmen and sophomores on this team. It's not like you've got a bunch of seniors who can do this.
Yeah.
So it is tough. But in terms of having 4 out of 6 players going slated to play Division I sports next year, which is I still can't even get my head around that. What do you think the comp would be on, let's say, a 6-man team? 4 out of 6. Would that be 9 out of 11 on offense? Would that? Yeah. It's just incredible to me.
Yeah. It reminds me of the South Oak Cliff team that they had the first year they won the state title that would have been in 2022. Mm-hmm. I think they had 18 guys go to FBS football out of that class, which was unreal.
18 guys,
yeah, which is unreal for a public school. Unreal.
It's incredible. It's a great story, and that was really. I remember when that happened. I didn't realize. I knew there was a lot. I didn't know there was 18. Okay, the Cowboys will host the Arizona Cardinals on Monday night. Cowboys are 2.5-point favorites. You and I have been all over the place picking this team. We have not picked a tie because we're cowards. What's your prediction for Monday night's game?
I think the Cowboys win this one. I think they go into the bye week with a little bit of momentum. I think I'm gonna put the over/under on. Does Jerry make a trade that we have to question before the deadline at 0.5? And I'm gonna take the over.
Who would they go get?
I don't know.
Because Nick, didn't you ask him? Weren't you the guy who asked him, "Are you one player away on defense?"
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and he's like, and I'll give him this. He normally in those cases he'll give you some, car salesman answer, and he didn't. Yeah. He's like, "No, we're not one player away," which is refreshingly honest about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick, what? They're not going to get Trey Hendrickson. They're not going to get Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you going to get?
Yeah, what they should not be going out and getting are these 1-year loan deals. Because if you're giving up draft capital for a linebacker or a corner or defensive lineman that's on an expiring contract, what's the point? You're basically handing a team a draft pick for a player that's not going to give you much of any use. So unless this team is going out and getting a player that has multiple years left on his contract and can start for you immediately defensively, there's no use in going out and getting any players. I wrote after the game that they should not be buyers at the deadline. They need to be sellers. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for some of these expiring contracts and free agency, and I think you need to take advantage of some of those right now and get something in return for them. I pointed to Jalen Tolbert, Sam Williams, TJ Bass, and even Trayvon Diggs. If you can get anything for any of those guys, I think you move off of them right now. I would even go as far as saying Terrence Steele as well. But I know.
Okay, so if you trade, to me, the most valuable one in there that you mentioned would be TJ Bass. I mean, maybe Jalen Tolbert, maybe, but I'm like with Diggs, why would anybody want that deal? Yeah. Sam Williams, I mean, good God, what a frustrating player. What a waste. And so to me, when I look at it, like TJ Bass, you can plug into a couple different spots and have a really competent, reliable, maybe not star, but a competent, reliable, professional offensive lineman at a couple different spots. That's an asset. Tolbert, yeah, I guess he can probably give you something on the outside, as a third, as a number 3. But the other ones, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what? Yeah. Like, so is there anything that, like, the Terrence Steele one is interesting. So if you move Terrence Steele, who becomes right tackle?
Nate Thomas.
You feel good about that?
I mean, I feel good about whatever you could get for Terrence Steele.
What would you get for Terrence Steele?
I think you could get a 3 or a 4.
You get a 3 for Terrence Steele?
His run blocking is some of the best in the league when it comes to the tackle position. It's just his pass protection has been so bad. And teams that need a starting right tackle, they will look at his availability, his reliability over the last 3 seasons, and they'll take that for that.
If you could get a 3, okay, let me go down this real quick. You think you could get a 3 high end for Terrence Steele? What would you get for Jalen Tolbert? 6?
5 or 6, yeah.
What would you get for Trayvon Diggs?
A can of tuna fish.
So, yeah, I think you'd get a 7.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
No, because you're doing the Cowboys a favor, right?
You would probably be. It would be a pick swap situation. That's exactly what it would be.
And what in God's name? What about TJ Bass? A 5?
I think you can get a 4 or 5.
Okay, you can get a 4. I did that for a second. What would you get for Sam Williams?
That same situation, pick swap, late day 3.
All right, a lot of optimism here. All right, you've got the Cowboys winning. I've got the Cowboys winning. And then next week on Cowboys Overtime, we're going to talk about how they've turned it around, and this time it's going to be different. What do you wear? Halloween's coming up. What are you going to dress up for Halloween?
I am just going to Walmart, and I'm going to buy one of those just like skunk costumes that you can just zip up and call it that. And that's what it's going to be for me. It's $30.
What was your favorite Halloween costume as a kid?
I was in a family that we didn't really celebrate Halloween that much. It wasn't like any like family tradition or anything. Okay. We just didn't do it. It was I don't know why. Honestly, I need to quiz my mom on that. And
grill her on that.
We did that, but it was just a holiday we never really put a lot of effort into.
Favorite Halloween candy?
Candy corn, hands down.
Oh my God, that's awful. Candy, can you hear me? Are you listening? She's not even listening.
Yes.
Okay, there he is. Okay, thanks, Candy. Linda, by the way, shout out to Linda Bolden, mother of Candy Bolden. Thank you so much for being a loyal viewer. Your daughter's wonderful. Candy, what was your favorite Halloween candy?
Reese's.
Amen. So that's outstanding answer. What was your best Halloween costume?
I don't really know. I think Velma was my favorite one because it was easy.
It's always the easy ones.
I went as Frankenstein a couple years ago. I did. It was good. And
you're tall enough to make that work. Like
I did. Yeah, right. And so I had these big. Oh, it was great. And my daughter went as the bride of Frankenstein. She had the tall hair. We have loved Halloween, and I'm a big Halloween guy. But my big thing is anybody who gives out almond joy that's not a house you want to visit. That's like you're basically sending out a signal. Don't come visit my house for Halloween.
Yeah, there's a Karen that lives there probably.
There's a Karen there. All right, Candy, thanks so much. Nick, thank you very much for all of your insight, for all of your Cowboys coverage needs. Be sure to check us out on StarTelegram.com. Next Monday night, Cowboys Cardinals at AT&T Stadium. This time it's all going to be better. Happy Halloween. See you next week.